It's Madison or bust. The West Coast Classic heads to Las Vegas. We'll run down all the odds-on favorites and tell you who could place and maybe show up as a dark horse. That's next on Game Central. Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Game Central. Sean Woodland and Tommy Marquez as we continue to preview all the semifinal events. Today we're looking at the West Coast Classic, and this one has been on the radar for a while, and now we finally get to see it take place.
Yeah, this event was basically announced back in 2019. It was going to be at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, home of the previous California Regional. Unfortunately, COVID had other plans. Now, 2 years later, we finally get to see it in a new location in Las Vegas, a phenomenal spot. If that doesn't get you excited, well, maybe a Buttery Bros pool party for the after party. Ooh. That might ruffle your feathers a little, Sean.
I'm sure that will be a nice, quiet affair where you can have a very intimate conversation with someone at a very low volume. The West Coast Classic gets going on June 18th, runs through the 20th. It's the fourth and final week of semifinals. It is at the Orleans Arena in Las Vegas. 5 men, 5 women, and 5 teams will be heading to the CrossFit Games out of that event. You will be able to watch the action live on Facebook Watch, YouTube, and also on games.crossfit.com. And tickets are available at westcoastcrossfitclassic.com. And you've mentioned the atmosphere, and Loud and Live is in charge of this event. You know that the crowd there is going to be fantastic.
And I actually have some personal experience with it. So my college alma mater's conference tourney in basketball every year takes place at the Orleans Arena. So I have frequented that location to watch some college basketball, to cheer, to get excited, and I've seen it firsthand how they can pack out that arena. Capacity for something like CrossFit will be about 6,000 to 7,000 total. And if you can fill that up with very little restrictions in Las Vegas at this point in time, then I think it's going to be a great venue overall to fit the size and scope of something like a semifinal event.
I know you love Vegas, you love doing some handicapping, so let's do that right now with the men's field. And who are the favorites to take those 5 spots?
Well, a couple of familiar names and a few newcomers as well. So top 5 overall, Noah Olson, Cole Sager, 2 guys that are synonymous with the games and performing well at this qualifying stage. Then Spencer Panchik having a banner year so far. I expect that to continue as well. Will Morad, a guy that showed up on everybody's radar again in 2019, had a little bit of a down year last year, but rededicated to training. And then Tola Morakinyo, a guy who basically had his games invite ripped out of his hands with the adjustments last season. I expect him to kind of build off of his new location in Vegas now that he's moved out to the West Coast.
Noah Olson is a guy you mentioned, and he has really taken his game to the next level over the past couple of years. I'm assuming he's the odds-on favorite to win this thing.
Yeah, I mean, not only is he one of the heir apparents to take over the throne that's been advocated by Matt Fraser, but one of the things that gets overlooked is just how good he is in this type of setting. Remember, we're moving back to a more regionals-esque format as far as qualifying is concerned. In the last 5 years that he was at regionals, he won 4 of them, and the only other time he didn't was a second place finish. You'd have to go back to 2013 when a guy like Noah Olson finished outside of the top 2 in this particular format. I think he's going to lead from the front right away.
Who is someone who might be in the mix? You didn't have it on your list of 5 right there, but at the end of the weekend, it wouldn't shock you if he were inside the top 5.
A fan favorite, Sean, and someone that's really going to thrive in this Vegas environment, Sean Sweeney, the CrossFit Cowboy. He's a guy that just always seems to be in the mix in live competition in particular. You look at his average finish over the past couple of years at Sanctionals, 8.5. His average finish at regionals for the last 3 to 4 years, 4.5, with a combined average finish in live competition qualifying for the games at 6.4. That puts you right outside the fold of one of those top 5 spots, but certainly in the mix. I'd expect him to be there yet again.
Matt DeLugos is an intriguing character here. We've talked a little bit about him in the past, but could be a dark horse who could throw a little bit of a wrench into things here.
I would say an underdog, Sean. Part of that underdog athletics crew out in Las Vegas under the tutelage of Justin Kotler. At just 24 years old, he finished first in North America in the quarterfinal test number 3, third in quarterfinal test number 5. He's very, very young, obviously 24 years old. He's shown that he's capable of winning events and individual tests. More importantly, what stands out to me as a fellow rig shaker above 6 feet, above 200 pounds, at 6'4", 215, he logged a time of 10:09 and 21.2. I watched it live. He did it unbroken. He moves extremely well for a big guy, and he has got the capacity to throttle down. It's only a matter of time before I feel he becomes a household name.
Let's go over to the women's side, and you mentioned Justin Kotler's crew, and a lot of them are going to be competing in the West Coast Classic, and I guess a lot of them are probably going to be inside the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, you look at 3 of those athletes are going to be in the top 5, at least as far as I'm concerned. You have Carrie Pierce at the top, no surprise there, the reigning fittest woman on earth and podium finisher. Danny Spiegel, an athlete has really kind of come into her own the last couple of years. I expect her to take advantage of moving out to the West Coast this year as well, and enjoying the relocation. Danielle Brandon, Bethany Shadburn, both just live right up the road. They should have no problems taking a top 5 spot there in Las Vegas. And then Reagan Huckabee, an athlete that I think gets overlooked a little bit. She's got multiple years of qualification as an individual under her belt. She's been at the games as a team. She really seems to have had a resurgence this year with her performance in the quarterfinals, and I think she could be there too.
Carrie Pierce at the top of that list that you just gave us, and she has really, just like Noah Olson, stepped her game up over the past couple of years.
Yeah, finally getting that coveted podium spot. You know, she's been a perennial fittest woman in the United States, but I think this is an awesome opportunity for her to step up and do something that she hasn't done a ton of, and that's actually win a competition. Remember, she relocated to Vegas. I think that's a big reason why we've seen that resurgence last year. She's in that camp with Justin Cotler. She'll be competing just a few miles down the road from where she trains and lives. I think she's going to continue that arc. She's mentioned that she's maybe towards the back end of her career. I think she's going to take full advantage of this very, very fortunate setup for her.
Who's knocking on the door for a spot inside the top 5?
I think Christine Best. She is an athlete that finished 16th at the games last year. A little bit of a surprise how well she did, but I think she also thrives in the online format. Remember, she qualified for the games last year via the Open, so not necessarily in live competition. You look at some of her performances over the years in live competition. 9th at the 2020 Wadapalooza Sanctional, 9th at the 2019 Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge. Her best finishes at regionals were the 7th in 2017, so a slight kind of regression in live competition compared to her performances online. I think she's proven that she can be in the mix, but this will be a potential breakthrough year if she can do it in live competition.
And finally, dark horse on the women's side.
Yeah, this is a name a lot of people I don't think will know. That's Chloe Wilson. If you go back to 2018, Sean, Chloe Wilson finished 6th at the South Regional, just one spot away from qualifying as a 20-year-old athlete. It looked like she had a bright future. In the meantime, she's taken some time to build a career as a firefighter, so part of that occupational games type contingent, but she's finally getting back into competition, and it shows in a big way. She finished 20th in the quarterfinal round. She lives about 90 minutes away from Vegas, so she's close by, and as she starts to refocus at just 23 years old, she could be another athlete that a few years down the line is a household name.
Finally, let's go to the team competition, and this is where there's still, I think, a lot of unknowns. Who do you like in the top 5 at the West Coast Classic?
Well, you mentioned the unknown factor, right? Well, I'm going to default to pedigree, and that comes to CrossFit Invictus. They finished 2nd in North America in the team quarterfinals behind Mayhem Freedom. And if you look at it, there's probably not another gym that has their pedigree. There hasn't been a single affiliate cup competition at the CrossFit Games that CrossFit Invictus wasn't a part of. So you fast forward to this year, I don't expect that to change, and I think they have a great opportunity to seize another podium finish under the belt.
Who's a team now that is in the hunt to make it into that top 5?
A team called the Ohio Brutes, and so this is where it gets a little bit dicey for me because there's a lot of new teams out here with new rosters without a ton of competitive experience. But if you look at how they performed in the team quarterfinals, they're strong, 9th in North America in the front squat. And then what really stood out to me is their ability to stay consistent through some of the other tests. 3 of the other 4 tests were between 17th and 27th. That means they're always hanging around a consistent level of performance in most of these tests. They did have one 63rd, so I think that is what is going to hinge their competition. If they can get rid of that bad performance, they'll be in the mix.
You could probably throw a dart and pick a dark horse here, but who's the one that really stands out to you as far as someone that keep an eye on this team?
As far as that's concerned and picking a dark horse for the team, I'm going to rally around a couple of notable individual athletes that happen to be on the roster. And for me, that's Blue City CrossFit. You look at Stephen Wallace and Taylor Stride. Taylor Stride qualified for the games as an individual in 2019. She was a member of that Mayhem contingent on that Independence team last year before everything kind of got thrown into the blender. And then Stephen Wallace was the strongest man in the front squat in the quarterfinals for North America. So they have some heavy hitters on that team that could really anchor a team that would surprise some people where they might not otherwise have the pedigree.
It is going to be a fun time at the West Coast Classic in Las Vegas. Once again, the dates, June 18th through the 20th at the Orleans Arena in America's Playground. 5 spots at the games on the line for the men, the women, and the teams, and 3 spots each for the Last Chance Online Qualifier. Tickets are available at westcoastcrossfitclassic.com, and you can watch all the action on Facebook Watch, YouTube, and games.crossfit.com. That is going to do it for this edition of Games Central. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.